So now we're gonna move on to really a kind of one-time segment since all the dynamic moves
It's
in
a
free
special
agency.
edition.
Yeah. Special edition since all the moves in free agency, the dynamic ones anyway, have already happened. You know, the big name free agents, and it's winners and losers of free agency, where we basically just go through the list of teams and we decide based on the major moves they made whether they won or whether they lost in free agency. You know, if they did good or bad. So jumping right into it, we're gonna go start off with the AFC, and we're gonna start off with the AFC East. First off, we have the Jets. The major moves that happened is they signed Matt Forte. They lost Damon Harrison to the Giants, crosstown rivals. Nothing really else really happened. They signed Kyrie Robinson, wasn't really major, and they re-signed Powell, which could end up being big. But the main problem is they haven't done anything in terms of quarterback, and Ryan Fitzpatrick's still out there. What do you guys think? Win or loss?
I don't think you mentioned it, but they did get Matt Forte.
No, he did.
Oh, he did? Oh, sorry, my bad. You can go first.
I personally think that they made good moves, but I think as they currently stand, they lost. The reason why I say that, they lost a great player in Damon Harrison. Now you can make the point that they have good people to back him up, but I think that they lost a very key player, and they don't have they literally don't have a quarterback right now, really. So I also think that that's currently I say they lost. If they depending on what their quarterback situation is, I could say that they did a decent job in free agency.
I'm going to agree with you. I'm going to say they lost. They got an upgrade at running back with Forte over Ivory. He might be older, but as of right now, that's a win. Mm-hmm. But overall, like you said, they lost Damon Harrison and not even, making an attempt to re-sign Ryan Fitzpatrick. They're bringing guys in, but nothing has happened yet exactly, so as of right now, as things stand, I agree. I say they did lose free agency as of now.
Yeah.
AJ?
I kind of agree with you. They did upgrade the running back position, but that was basically it. I mean, the quarterback position is still a major need, but if they do get a quarterback re-signed with Fitzpatrick, then I would say that they won.
All right, moving on. The New England Patriots. Basically, run down what happened. Gerard Mayo retired, which might be big. They released Brandon LaFell. They signed Tom Brady to a $2 million extension, 2-year extension, made over $41 million total. They traded Chandler Jones recently for Jonathan Cooper and a second-round pick. They replaced him with Chris Long, who they signed to a 1-year deal. Shea McClellan from the Bears, a linebacker, they signed to a 3-year deal. And lastly, they traded a 4th-round pick for Martellus Bennett and a 6th-round pick. So this team really did make a lot of moves after starting off quietly. You think they won or lost? Start off with AJ this time?
The Patriots, doesn't matter what they do for agency, they'll still be good, but as of right now, I'm going to say that they are winners, because I don't like the Chandler Jones trade. I thought that they gave up too much for that, but the Patriots did get a almost the same caliber DN, but Chandler Jones has higher upside, but right now, Chris Long is really good, so I think they got someone at same caliber as him right now. Shea McClellan could end up being huge for them because of Gerard Mayo retiring, and then Martellus Bennett is a very not under the radar player, but an under the radar trade that they got, which is basically a steal. So yeah, I would say that they are winners.
Go on, you go.
I think they re-signed Tom Brady, so that was good. You can't compare Chris Long to Chandler Jones currently. I strongly disagree with AJ. He's not getting 12.5 sacks a season. That's just not happening. He's going to be a good role player. He's going to be able to fill the role decent. They did lose Chandler Jones, but I think that I think they won free agency for one reason. They got Martellus Bennett. For a couple of reasons. They got Martellus Bennett, which is going to be huge for their offense. Shea McClellan, like I said before, I think is going to be huge for them. And they got 11 draft picks this year, and they finally got a decent lineman in Jonathan Cooper. And they have 11 draft picks this year. That's going to rebuild their organization, really. Granted, they don't have a number 1 overall, first-round pick, rather, but I think it'll be good for them. So I think they won.
I agree. I do say they won, and the reason why is the Patriots always being a good team, they didn't really lose much is really the main reason they won. They didn't get much besides Martellus Bennett and McClellan, but I feel like they definitely did win due to the fact they kept a lot of in-house talent, and I feel like they'll be a similar team to what they were last year, and that's always a win for the Patriots after what they've been doing. Next, we got the Buffalo Bills. They re-signed Richie Incognito. They ended up keeping Cordy Glenn to the franchise tag. And they released Leotis McKelvin, so nothing really much happened with them. What do you think?
I say they did. They just did decent. They didn't do anything crazy. Didn't lose anything crazy. They just did the same. So I think they did good.
Yeah, Richie Incognito was a pretty big deal, but besides that, nothing really happened with them. You agree, Jay?
Yeah, I agree.
Dolphins, they've made some moves, unlike what we've seen a little bit. They received Kiko Alonso and Byron Maxwell and swapped first-round picks with the Eagles. I don't know how I feel about that. They released both Brent Grimes and Greg Jennings, and I think this is a good move. They restructured Ndamukong Suh's deal, so they didn't owe him as much money as he was owed. They lost Rashard Matthews. They lost Olivier Vernon, but they did replace him with not a better player, but a similar player in Mario Williams. And then they ended up losing Lamar Miller, and they did sign Tyler Davis from the German Football League. What do you guys think?
I'll go first. I think that if Tyler Davis pays off for them, that it'll be big for them. I think that it'll really, really help them. But in general, I think they lost free agency. They lost Rashard Matthews, which I think is going to be really bad for Ryan Tannehill. Lost Olivier Vernon, who I think was their future at pass rushing the quarterback. It was good they restructured Ndamukong Suh. They lost Brent Grimes. They signed Mario Williams, so they managed to get older at that defensive line, and they lost their running back. So I think the Dolphins lost free agency.
Yeah, I think they're big losers, especially, they swapped first-round picks with the Eagles, 5 spots? They moved down 5 spots for, not even that much of upgrades. I mean, they did need a corner after Brent Grimes got released, but Byron Maxwell wasn't really the answer. Kiko Alonso wasn't all that great with the Eagles. I just feel like they didn't do much good in free agency besides restructuring Ndamukong Suh's deal to save money, and if Tyler Davis, like you said, ends up working out. AJ?
I think that I agree with Nick that Rashard Matthews is going to be a huge loss. Brent Grimes released. I don't know why they... I think that he's a good player. I don't know why they would release him. I don't know why they're going to do swapping Byron Maxwell for Brent Grimes. I think that would have been a good duo. Their wide receivers are still intact with Greg Jennings released, but that Rashard Matthews was, a big loss for them. Mario Williams could end up being big for them because they lost Olivier Vernon and Derek Shelby, so that could be a good signing. They would have Ndamukong Suh, Cameron Wake, and Mario Williams, 3 of the best DNs right now in football, which is not the best, top 20, top 15. Mm-hmm. They had one of the best D lines right now, in my opinion. So yeah, I think that I actually think that they won free agency. If you just take away with the Rashard Matthews thing, they did get a lot of other good players, and I think that they improved on defense.
Definitely make that an argument of the week question.
Oh, okay.
All right. Next, we're gonna move on to the AFC North, and first off, we have the Cincinnati Bengals. Basically, what happened with them? They lost Marvin Jones and Mohamed Sanu. They're 2 receivers behind AJ Green. Marvin Jones went to Detroit, while Sanu went to Atlanta. They did manage to re-sign both Georgie Loka and Adam Jones, which is good for their secondary, but they did lose their offensive coordinator in Hugh Jackson and defensive coordinator in Vance Joseph. We'll see if that plays a role in what happens. Yeah. They didn't end up re-signing Reggie Nelson. He's still a free agent, and they did re-sign Vincent Ray, however, who was under the radar, their team leading tackler. Yeah, what do you guys think?
I think that the loss of Marvin Jones and Mohamed Sanu is going to stink for them, but I also feel like they're in a good enough spot in the draft where they could get a really good receiver and not draft too early. You know what I mean, for a receiver. Mm-hmm. So I think that might be good for them, possibly. And I think that it is very good they re-signed Georgie Loka and Adam Jones. Mm-hmm. But the loss of Hugh Jackson and Vance Joseph, I think, is going to be very big. I'm very interested to see what really goes down with that whole offense and defense, really. I think it was huge they re-signed Vincent Ray, who not a lot of people know is their team leading tackler. I believe not only this year, but last year as well, I think. Mm-hmm. 2 years ago. And Reggie Nelson, I think, is really big for them, and I'm surprised nobody else has jumped on board with him. So I think that I want to say they lost free agency, but I'm going to go like in the middle. I want to say they were like decent because they made key re-signings but lost some pretty big players.
I definitely think that they lost because Reggie Nelson is a big part of their defense, and he's still not on the team. Hugh Jackson was what drove that offense last year. I mean, we'll see what Andy Dalton does without him, but I just think that is more of a big loss for them than the wide receivers. The wide receivers are big because, like you said, they have other players, but I think that Marvin Jones and Mohamed Sanu, they only have one good wide receiver on the roster now. So that's big for them. Georgie Loka and Adam Jones are key players, but then again, they lost both of their coordinators who were big for them on their team, and Reggie Nelson. So I say they are losers. So, what do you think?
I definitely think they're losers, but mainly because of the loss of their two receivers and their offensive and defensive coordinators. There's really not much more to go on with that. Oh, that's pretty polite. Pittsburgh Steelers, another AFC North. Not much happened with them. They re-signed Darius Hayward-Bay. They signed Ladarius Green after Heath Miller announced his retirement and re-signed William Gay. So not really much happened with them, but I think they're winners due to the fact that they kept their in-house talent, which was good, and they signed Ladarius Green, which at this point might be an upgrade to what Heath Miller was at this point in his career.
I definitely think... sorry.
It's okay. I really think that Ladarius Green is going to play dividends for them. I think especially in terms for Big Ben and just taking pressure off of Antonio Brown. It stinks that you didn't say that Martavius Bryant was out for a year, so that's going to be big. But aside from that, I think they won free agency.
I think that they won too. It's not like they didn't do anything... Oh, excuse me. It's not like they did anything bad. It's just that they kept their in-house talent because they didn't really have a lot of free agents, and Ladarius Green could end up being a great signing for them. So I definitely think that they won.
The Ravens, not a lot happened with them either. They restructured Joe Flacco's deal, restructured Jimmy Smith's deal, released defensive lineman Chris Canty, signed Benjamin Watson, and released Darryl Smith. What do you guys think about that?
And they lost the guard that went to the Ravens.
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
So, I think that the Joe Flacco deal, they took money off of that deal, right? Mm-hmm. So,
that was saved them a total of $13 million in 2 years.
That's pretty big because I don't know if he's, going to come back and be the same player he was with the ACL injury. Jimmy Smith is a great player for them, so good thing that they cut a little bit off his contract because he's a great player. It's just that their secondary is terrible. They need another corner. Chris Canty wasn't really a big release. They just need to cap. Benjamin Watson's a good signing because they have so many tight ends. They have a lot of options. Darryl Smith is a very big release because just how much he is to that defense. So, and then the two big signings. So I think that they are winners, but the Osmele thing is very big for them, losing him.
I agree. I think that they won free agency for the same reasons AJ said. The Joe Flacco, Jimmy Smith, that's big that they saved money. The signing of Benjamin Watson I think is going to be very helpful. Eric Weddle and Mike Wallace can really only help them. I think Eric Weddle is going to be huge for them. And the loss of Osmele, or whatever his name is, I think that was bad for them. But I think overall they won.
Lastly, the Cleveland Browns.
If we have something bigger than a loss, worse than a loser, I'm pretty sure that the Browns would have that right now.
Yeah. The Browns, they cut Johnny Manziel, hired Hugh Jackson, and lost Travis Benjamin along with Alex Mack and Mitchell Schwartz. They're definitely losers after losing two of the biggest pieces on their focal point of their team, the O-line. That's pretty much all there is to it. What do you guys think?
I think that they were too hesitant in free agency. They lost out on so many players.
Definitely.
Hugh Jackson's going to suffer just because he has nothing to work with. It's interesting to see what happens with Josh Gordon. And I think overall they probably lost.
They are if you just look at
they definitely lost.
Yeah, if you just look at their roster, they just have no talent.
So that's it. You're good.
Yeah, so I definitely big losers.
All right. Well, next we're gonna move on to the last two AFC divisions before moving on to the NFC.